Go live. Click. And we're live. It is Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, 5:03 p.m. We are late today because Scott Shapiro, though he has been on the show many times, has still not figured out that if he doesn't wear headphones, we get feedback issues on the show. So Scott
it's okay.
Shapiro,
I'm going to come to his rescue right now, because Yale Law School is this magical place where the library rents you puppies. I'm not kidding. Umbrellas. You can get a laptop and a charger. And Scott, do you know what they have? They have headphones. Yeah,
what?
you should. Yeah, go run and get headphones, and then you can plug them in, and it'll be a second, and I'll tell my monologue.
All right. So in the meantime, while Scott is undoing the damage that he has done to the show, before we introduce the mysterious figure in the lower right, who you can see is named Andrew Blakey, but we're not gonna explain who he is just yet until Scott gets back. Kate, the monologue is yours.
So I started today by having a. Did you find some, Scott? Are they closed?
Nobody.
Bummer. I tried. I started today with trying to with testifying in the House of Lords, which started out, and I kid you not, with all of these people with like the Lord or what was the term, Ben? Baroness. Oh, Baroness, and like their title, and they were all kind of like making jokes about their sheds. Like, I don't understand this. They were all in sheds, and they were like, "This is my gardening shed," but it was clearly like a very nice library that they like redone, and it was like very. And then like there was this one guy in this old looking place, and they were like, "Oh, is that like old British? Is that from like 1628? I've got those beams from 1628," and the answer was, "No, it's a modern house, and we had the beams brought in." And it was just like a very kind of very British conversation. But anyways, they were very nice, and I testified for exactly 1 hour, which is way better than government testimonies gone in the past. At the very end, I guess I was talking too much, and one of the British fellows gave me this like roundabout, like kind of like tap, where he goes to the other witness who's like, "Thank you so much, Mr. Rusbridger, like, and for your brevity." And then they turned to me. I was like, "Oh, snap. Oh, that was really mean."
That's very, it's very Oxford,
It was very Oxford. I was like, "Man, you would give me a complex if I cared about shit like that." That would be like really. But fortunately, I'm in my sweatpants testifying to the House of Lords, and so I do not care.
Well, I think that is awesome, and I will be sure always to thank other people on the show for their brevity. So far, Andrew Blakey has been remarkably brief. He, other than shake his head when I suggested that he might be the source of the audio feedback, he has really said nothing. Scott, meanwhile, has vanished in a puff of smoke. So the show is off to a great start. We promised you two Scott Shapiros. We've brought so far an inaudible one and a mysterious Andrew Blakey.
It is kind of amazing.
So Scott, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome.
I mean, I do kind of like you have to like the commitment to the. We have asked him to play both roles today, Ben, and I feel like we should go a little easy on Scott. Also, if you hear that weeping in the background, that's just Nina carrying around something that she refuses to eat, and instead is going to bury under something in the house.
I would like to point out that we asked Scott who he wanted to pick a fight with, and he said he would debate himself. So
really? I didn't realize that he invited himself on.
No. I invited him on in a kind
but
of
he invited
himself kind of way. He invited the second Scott on. What's happened to him? He's kind of like...
I don't know. He hasn't texted me either. I'll just kind of No.
Meanwhile, we can just
I kind of want to talk. I kind of want to talk to Andrew.
Yeah, let's
Andrew,
talk to
what's
Andrew.
your deal?
Yeah, hi.
You're our guest now.
Who the hell are you?
Well, I'm gonna wait for Scott to introduce what we've got for you today. But yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm from Woodstock, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, nice.
And how do you know Scott?
Scott and I go back a long, long way. It feels a long time. I think maybe January. I met him on Twitter.
A really long time, like a very, very long time, like a month and a half.
So
Has it only been a month and a half? Oh.
I know.
So here's my question
Andrew's
about
also
people.
funny.
For
This is
all
really
people
good.
who've met Scott on Twitter, do you have any sense of Scott as an important, serious person, or do you just have a sense of Scott as a
He's
weird,
back.
weird Twitter
Let him
clown?
back in.
Oh boy.
It's okay. He's not here.
When I
You can say
followed
whatever you
Scott
want about him.
initially, I thought he must be kind of serious because he's got credentials. But then when you get to know him, you realize that he has dug such a deep hole of sarcasm that you can never tell if he's ever trying to be serious.
That's right.
And I think I love that. I love that he's committed to the bit so far that he has no choice but to commit to the bit
Like
now.
he doesn't even
Would you
know.
carry the ring for him, Samwise? Would you carry it? Would you carry him on your back into Mordor?
All the way in. And if I trip
Oh,
and
man.
fall and he goes into Mount Doom, then my bad.
So
He says he's here and to let him in.
yeah, I'm trying. He's not showing up.
He might have to refresh.
Yeah.
I
he
mean,
may
this
have-
would be.
Oh,
there he is. Headphones.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We
Yeah,
can.
you sound great.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Gerard. I just said emergency headphones, and then somebody ran and gave me headphones.
Well,
Okay,
excellent. This
Okay.
is perfect. We
Okay.
can
This
now
is. I'm
say-
gonna make your title card now, Scott.
We can now say that we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have two Scott Shapiros. So, Scott, can you introduce both your alter ego, whom you'll be debating today, and Andrew, who we still don't know what he's doing up here?
right, okay. So let me say, okay. So
And we know he's from Ontario, and he knows you from Twitter,
Right.
but that's
I-
kind of all we
Funny.
got.
I would
So-
say that he's the funniest Canadian they haven't met, but they're mostly all Canadian.
Right.
Um,
So I'm Scott Shapiro, and I'm the exclusive legal positivist for today. Okay, and there's going to be another Scott Shapiro who's going to be look just like me, but just much dumber. Okay, and he's going to be the inclusive legal positivist.
Okay.
But it's going to be a fair fight. But before we do that, I wanted to announce to the world. I think this is we're announcing to the world. Okay, Andrew and I, we created a new social
You're
media.
getting married.
No, we're not. Gonna, I believe you're spoken for, Andrew. Yeah. So we had this idea. I should say, I don't want to blame Andrew. I had this idea that content moderation is like, you may not know this, but it's a big thing on social media. It's like a big issue. There's this thing called the Facebook Oversight Board. It's like some very interesting stuff, and it's like really hard to to moderate content on the internet and social media. So
But you solved it.
we solved it. And well, actually, I had the idea. Andrew is a genius coder. He used AI and blockchain technology to solve content moderation. And I'm really thrilled to announce the world premiere, the rollout of Cancel, which is it's a social media platform using AI and blockchain technology, which ensures that you will never.
Oh, hold on, wait. I'm gonna put it up.
Okay.
I just did.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
I'm not seeing it.
Sorry, I shared the link.
Andrew,
but
Andrew,
share the page.
What's the URL?
I got it.
URL is cancel.pointless.click.
There we go.
There it is. Great.
Okay. Okay. So, Andrew, why don't you walk us through how it works?
Okay, so
So if I wanted to cancel Ben right now, what would I type?
No. We're not aiming to cancel anyone. We're
This
aiming
is
to.
making cancel culture universal here, right?
This is we want to make sure that that nobody ever gets upset
Oh,
by
oh.
by by
Oh,
anything.
but what I want to do is cancel other people.
No, well, how about let's test it for everybody to see how the.
I broke your thing already.
Okay. Wait, did you create a username and password?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
okay.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to like.
Okay.
I'm gonna. Okay, hold on. I'm going back over to it. I've got to find my mouse. Okay, there it is. Okay, so all right, social media with guardrails. Okay, socialize with like and unlike-minded people with peace of mind. Cancel trademark. Uses advanced AI technology and blockchain to ensure the most effective content moderation on the internet.
Okay.
It's a culture. This is.
All right. So, what's the theory of this important social media innovation?
Well, the basic idea is that on cancel you can't say anything wrong because we won't let you say anything. So let's. I mean, I know it sounds
let's give it a whirl.
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true, but in fact it works. Okay, why don't you create a username, create an account? It has to be 5 words. Yeah, okay. Ben.
You'll want to hit the create account button below the login button to begin,
Oh,
unless you already
okay.
have an account. There you go.
Ben. There we go.
What's my password?
Uh,
I think it should be 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
Hart.
Oh, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 characters. We take security
Hart.
very seriously.
Yeah,
One,
and
two,
cancel.
three,
Yeah,
four.
we're very. I mean,
Do
security
we
and
agree to the terms of conditions? Is this bargained for?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
whatever they are, we agree to them.
Okay, your account is created.
Welcome to already. There's this many likes.
Yeah, I mean it's very.
I cannot wait to get to know each and every one of you by all the creative, inclusive posts you author. Okay, my feed. Great. Okay.
All right, should we post something?
Yeah, but post something. Try to post something that's mildly offensive, like I like Mr. Potato Head or something.
I like. Mr. Potato.
Notice here how Kate failed to come up with an idea. Just adopted Scott's.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's
Thanks
what
for-
happened there.
It
Like,
shows
she
that it's
couldn't have
working.
even- she couldn't have come up with like, you know, I
Just want to
like.
be. That was the best. That was like the most transparent process you've ever seen.
Yeah, I
It was
just wanted to
like
make sure everyone caught on to it.
Okay.
Your mom. This thread follows terms of use. I clicked it.
Are there posted terms of use?
Oh, Andrew, are there posted terms of use?
That's something that we're currently working on. That's an advanced technology, and we expect that to be out by third quarter.
Okay.
Okay.
So
now,
we should verify that it follows terms of use.
Okay,
that
I'm
are not
scared
yet
to
You
do
posted.
this
can
with
just
them afraid
trust
I'm
me. It's fine. You can trust me. They're not going to be too complicated.
Okay.
yeah.
Go to Harvard for like just a little while or anything. Can I hit it?
Well,
Yeah.
Can you?
yeah.
Yeah.
You canceled my mom.
But the thing is, so notice.
You are canceled. You have posted.
So here's the here.
But
Yeah.
it says I'll be uncanceled in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you
This is
post
fun.
again, you're permanently suspended. So that's a. But the thing is, even though nobody will see this, we save it to the blockchain.
That's right. So
You
that
know?
it haunts you forever.
Right, forever, and it can't be changed. It's science. And so, what I would like, people, please test this. If you're able to post something that doesn't get you canceled, Um, that's not supposed to happen.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How are you going to make money from this?
Oh, volume.
So I have a question, Scott.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like what you're doing here is you're destigmatizing cancellation by making cancellation universal. Is part of the goal here to remove the shame of cancel culture?
You know, it's really funny because when I did it myself and it said you are canceled, I got really kind of I got scared. Like there's something very scary about it, and I think it's part of general education about ensuring that people understand that like this is serious stuff.
So Andrew,
Do you guys get money every time we
how
get
many minutes
canceled?
did this take you to code?
Oh, this has been a pet project of mine for a long time. I mean, if
Like
you
a
want to
whole,
measure it
like-
in minutes, I mean, that's a large number.
10,
Basically,
15.
I was inspired by recent advancements in AI technology that finally made it possible to perform this kind of content moderation at scale. Cancel uses a novel AI approach called if then else, which is based on the work of AI researchers George Boole and Paul Algol.
It actually doesn't even need the else, right? If there's content in these two fields, then, right? There's no.
Well, I'm
is there
paying
an
for.
else?
We're paying for the if then service, and the else service is just part of that, right?
I see. Okay.
It's a bundled thing.
It's a metered thing, but
Yeah.
we haven't worked out how we're going to
Sounds
make
like you're
money
bringing
from
a
it.
lot of friction back into the system.
I just
like
want to point out
nothing
that we're
but
20
friction.
minutes in, and second Scott Shapiro hasn't even shown up yet. Are you dodging the debate here, Scott?
No, but I will jump into the debate
Wait,
right
we
now.
haven't even. we have to
But I
announce
was saying
it.
the thing is I want to first of all I want to thank Andrew for putting this together.
Andrew, this is great.
And for
If
being
then
such a
was
being
an
such a
excellent joke.
right it was being such a great sport. But I also think that I think this is a big deal. I think this has solved a huge problem.
So everybody, all at once, tweet this link.
See how many people we can cancel.
Right. Just think, there's 200
There's people out there.
200 people watching this on Crowdcast, another 150 or so watching it on YouTube. I want you all to tweet it all at the same time. Or better yet, if you share it on Parler, if that still exists.
Well, that's right. That's the thing. This is the anti-Parler, right? Is that Parler lets you say everything. We let you say nothing.
Exactly. That's right.
And nobody's going to be upset.
Have I told you both about my social media site that I announced yesterday I'm making available to anybody who wants to develop it on a even looser than a Creative Commons license. You don't even need to give me credit for it. Here's the way it works. It's the opposite of Clubhouse, where you follow people and you have to hear their voice. If I follow somebody on this social media site, I never have to hear their voice. If they talk to me in person, I can see their mouth moving, but all their tweets go away, their Facebook posts go away, their YouTube videos don't exist for me, their comments don't exist. Just I follow people and they can follow me if they don't want to hear anything I ever say. It's just sort of the opposite of Clubhouse.
Right. I think that's good. I mean, in a way, I feel like cancel.
It's very similar.
Yeah, is it cancel and this are very similar. They have these super tweeters things that you could pay $4.99 a month or something like that. My idea was that you could pay me $4.99 a month. I would block you, but I wouldn't screenshot it. Okay. So.
All right.
Sorry, this is
Andrew, you're a great American and
an idiot.
unusually good sport.
Yeah, so I'm usually
and you
good
clearly have a lot of time on your hands. Thank you for joining us.
Literally.
Thank you very much.
Andrew could have like if then saved like, half of Africa at this point. Like we just like put him on the right problem. Like we just could have got some pipeline malaria treatment to people.
Now,
Okay.
here's an important question before we get started with the debate.
Right.
Is the proper plural Scott's Shapiro or Scott Shapiros?
Why not both?
Yeah, I think it's Scott Shapiro's. There have been many Scott Shapiro's. I don't know if you know this. Jewish Twitter has discovered me.
How do you know?
How do they know you're Jewish? I'm kidding.
Well, okay, well, yeah, but I know it because like my followers, like every other name is Moshe. And every other one is Chani, and everyone's making they're all Talmudically shit posting. It's actually quite.
It's great. That's great because they're trained in a way that the rest of us are not.
Okay.
All right, Scott.
Okay.
Are you making the case for inclusive or exclusive legal positivism?
Well, I don't know. I'm making the best case for both.
All right.
And then you guys can
the
vote
floor
on
is both of yours.
Okay.
Hold
Okay.
on.
Yeah, sure.
Dun 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 dun.
Wait. We can't see that whole thing.
Dun 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 dun.
Kate's tenure just went out the window, but okay.
Okay, so I'm going to. So can I have the floor for like 3 minutes to give like a very, just a 3-minute introduction to legal philosophy, so people know how to like situate the debate?
Yeah, sure. Which is this a third neutral Scott Shapiro?
Yeah. This is like the narrator, the omniscient narrator.
Okay.
Okay. So
and while you're doing that, because at the beginning of every debate on Pugilism Week, we post a poll to see whether people what their baseline is, and then we poll at the end. So yesterday, Sarah Longwell made some real progress with this. So we're gonna see where the audience is as a baseline matter on exclusive versus inclusive legal positivism.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think it's really because we want to see which one of us move the needle more.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm not a quantitative person, so I don't know, but I guess that makes sense. So I'm gonna we're doing a serious 3-minute introduction to legal philosophy. Okay. So here's the basic deal. Probably the core question in analytical legal philosophy is what makes law. So think of it like this. So when the Senate and the House and President Biden sign the COVID relief bill, which hopefully will happen soon, it will be the case that qualified people will be entitled to $1,400 from the government. They'll be legally entitled to that. And the question is, why? What makes it the case that they would be legally entitled to $1,400? Okay? Now, that sounds like such an obvious question, like, well, somebody made the law. But the question is, what must be the case in order for us to say that, a law was made? Okay? So the first view, which is often called legal positivism, goes the following way. You know what law is? Law is a social construction. There are people that act a certain way, they say certain things, and it's a practice of some sort, and when they do certain things, the law is created. Okay? So in the case of COVID relief, it was that the House and the Senate both voted for the bill and the president signed it within the requisite amount of time. It's these very mundane social facts that makes the law. Okay? That's it. It's called legal positivism because the law is always posited. It is always created through human action and
Oh my
solely
God, I'm
by human.
so glad you told me that.
Oh,
It's been
okay.
bothering me forever.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm so sorry. Like I'm like, what is like legal negativism? Like I didn't
Right.
understand what it was. Oh, it just means posited.
Yes. Right.
Oh man.
So yeah, yeah, right. So that I mean, it's very.
Scott wins.
Okay, so it's very, it's very big. I'm the omniscient, impartial
Yeah, this
narrator.
is third Scott. We didn't
Yeah, this is
actually
good.
pay
Okay,
for
sorry.
his presence.
The other view says no, 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 no. That's just like people saying stuff and doing stuff. Okay, we need some kind of like extra thing in there to make law law. And what would that be? That would be morality. And what would be morality, political morality here? It would be that Congress and the president were democratically elected. And so it's not just that these people said certain things, but that these people said and did certain things, and that is morally relevant. It's morally relevant that democratically elected representatives wanted us to do certain things, and by virtue of that, we are legally obligated. And this view is often called natural law being kind of like a synonym for moral law. And the reason why this is called natural law, the natural law view, is because what makes the law is not just that people said certain things, social facts, but also moral facts. The moral law is a kind of a necessary ingredient to every law. So it's not just that Congress did certain things, the president did, but morality requires it. Okay, that's like the basic debate. Okay, now HLA Hart, and this is 90 more seconds. Okay,
And I just want to point
No,
out.
I
just want to
love
point out.
that.
I have his book, and his name appears to be HLA.
that's right.
I just want that on the table. There's no evidence that any of those initials stand for anything.
They actually do, but Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart.
If I had that ridiculous name, I would go by HLA.
Right, HLA.
I don't hope my friends would call me H.
I'm very
Right.
impressed you knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's literally the only thing I do. So, okay. So HLA Hart was a great legal positivist of the 20th century, and he wrote this great book called The Concept of Law. And he said, you know how law works? It works in the following way. Law is not just a system, it's not just a series of rules, a collection of rules. It's a system of rules. What does that mean? It means that when Congress and the president do certain things, all the other legal officials, they're following a higher order rule. He called it a secondary rule, the rule of recognition. Okay? And the rule of recognition says that any rule that has certain characteristics is law. In this case, enacted by Congress and the president. So when you think of law, you need to think of it as like having levels. Okay, there's all the like law, like COVID relief and voting rights restrictions and all that stuff, right? And then there's this thing called the rule of recognition, which is like a master rule that exists in every legal system, and it has a different content in every legal system depending on what that system is. In the UK, it's that the House of Commons and the House of Lords with the Queen. There's assent there. In the United States, it's another thing. And what the rule of recognition does is it sets out the criteria of legal validity. Okay? And what's critical is for Hart is that the rule of recognition is the rule of recognition just because it is followed by officials. It's the social fact of, it's like, why is the starting time for In Lieu of Fun 5 p.m.?
No, wrong. Bad example. The starting time of In Lieu of Fun is 5 p.m. because that's when Trump did his coronavirus briefing, and we were trying to give people
He's not wrong. He's just trying to say that like there's a rule that.
No, he's saying it's arbitrary, except that we decree it, and it's not arbitrary.
Yes, that's true.
It was a specific intent to deprive the president of 75 or 80 viewers.
I don't want to be so. why you're decreeing it seems like, so the idea of like saying you're going to decree something or you're going to posit something, you're going to say, there is a formalism that is involved in that. You're not just talking it or everything that we say would be law. You're like not just thinking it or everything we think would be law. There has to be some type of recognition around this idea and this community kind of thing, but that has to mix up, that formalism has to kind of mix up in a way with a social recognition. Like, it's not merely enough to tie a bow on something and call it a new building. Everyone around you has to be standing there. You have to cut the ribbon, and like there has to be a new building. Like, right? And so
right, exactly. It's a social phenomenon. Put it another way, it's a social construction. So, like, if people didn't recognize that hitting the ship with the champagne bottle christens the ship, like it would just be wasting a champagne bottle. Okay, the same thing about law. It's like, it's not just these losers in Washington are saying yay or nay and somebody signing a piece of paper. It's that legal officials are following a rule that recognizes that as having significance. There's nothing more to it. It can be morally horrendous. It doesn't matter as long as there is a social practice of recognition.
So is that inclusive or exclusive legal
That's
posture?
not. That's
we're not even there yet.
We're not even there. Now I'm gonna hit. Now we jump into the debate.
And you're still neutral, Scott.
Yeah, I'm still neutral, Scott. I'm just gonna jump in. So Ronnie Dworkin, this is the famous Hart Dworkin debate. Ronald Dworkin said, "Hart, law doesn't work that way. Like, have you ever read a judicial opinion, Herbert? If you read a judicial opinion, you would see that they're not just saying, oh, Congress said this and the president signed that. They're like importing all this stuff, namely moral stuff. And that's what could be so kind of confusing about judicial opinions. It seems like they're adding a lot of moral stuff into the opinion to decide what the law is. So it's not like the law is just moral, social facts of people doing certain things, but it's always interpreted in light of moral principles. And
whatever those are.
Yeah, whatever those are. Okay, so there's a famous Riggs versus Palmer case where Elmer Palmer was afraid that his grandfather was going to cut him out of the will and killed him, gets convicted of murder, goes to jail, and has the chutzpah to still try to collect on the will. And the court...
Seems right.
Also will destroy a joint tenancy, as I know because I just taught it. Sorry.
Wait, there's a joint tenancy?
No, if you murder someone you're in joint tenancy with, you don't get to.
Hey, I fell in love with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act because of a 1995 Fifth Circuit case called Issa. This is a total tangent, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's funny. Issa was being investigated by the FBI for being an agent of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and his daughter went on a date with a guy he didn't approve of, so he stabbed her to death and rolled her in a carpet and dumped her in the river, and did this all while on a wiretap that the FBI had gotten under FISA because he was an agent of the PFLP. They turned the audio tape over to Missouri prosecutors of him stabbing his daughter, saying, "Die quickly, my dear, die quickly. I love you, blah, blah, blah," and then wrapping her in a carpet. And he argued that the warrant was improperly granted because he wasn't, in fact, an agent of the PFLP. So that's a kind of similar situation that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Ben, because this is not complicated enough. What I'm doing.
That was super good. That was great. Everyone understands.
Okay. But by the way, that's
true story, by the way.
Aside being confusing, that's a horrible story.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's just terrible. Anyway, okay, so the court says the court says, I know the statute of wills doesn't say you don't get to collect if you murder the testator, the one who, like, if a beneficiary wants to collect under the will, you got to make sure that the beneficiary didn't kill the one who wrote the will. But what the court says is, of course you have to read the statute of wills in light of principles like nobody should profit from their own wrong. So, and the court is not getting this from any kind of institution or any social fact. It's kind of saying it's just morally wrong to kill somebody to get your inheritance, and we're not going to let you profit from your own wrong. So Dworkin gives a whole series of things to say, well, obviously what's happening is the courts take morality to be part of law. So legal positivism can't be right because morality is always part of law. It's not just social facts, it's also moral facts. Here is where the debate comes in. Did Dworkin show that positivism is wrong by showing that judges look to morality to decide cases? Is that fair?
Yeah, or did he just like add on to it? It was like it's not just social contract, it's social construct and morality.
Right, right. That's what he was saying, and the positivists would say no, it's not morality. Okay, and now they're in a pickle because it seems as if morality does play a role, not just plays a role, but like whenever you read a judicial opinion, like it does seem like it's lurking there somewhere, even if they're not saying it outright.
What lurking? A lot of times it's like there are all these grand statements that are like, no, we have known since the dawn of time that man, right, like is like that equity is the most important principle of man, and then like the next decision they write, it's like free expression is the principle of man, or the right to like sell his own goods and go wherever he pleases is like the core. Yeah. But like, so why is that? Like, there's a million different words for various parts of that in the law. There's custom, there's norms, there's law, there's rules, there's standards.
Well,
like,
so Dworkin he said that morality plays the role in forms of principles. The principles are things that are not all or nothing, but have weight. So that's why, Kate, what you just recognized happens all the time is because moral principles have different kinds of weight, and they get weighed in different ways in different cases depending on the circumstances. So this kind of formalistic picture that positivists were given doesn't square with the way in which judges actually decide cases. They decide cases by trying to figure out what's morally required in this case. And so positivists are just distorting legal practice.
Okay, so now, hang on. We're 41 minutes in, and neither Scott Shapiro has landed a blow on the other Scott Shapiro.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm inclusive legal positivist Scott Shapiro, and I hope you can follow me. I'm not that smart. But let me tell you how I would respond to Dworkin. Okay? Look, positivists think that what makes law is that the rule of recognition says that if a norm has a certain property, it's authoritative. So you know what happens in the United States and in the common law? The rule of recognition says morality is part of law.
Whose morality? What morality? There's no universal morality. Well, I actually know the person who wrote an entire thing about universal moral grammar. That's a nice, that's a thought. Oh God.
This is John McHale.
John McHale.
John McHale, right, exactly.
So but I think that he's wonderful. So do you buy John McHale's theory that there is one kind of, so that builds off of Chomsky's theory that there's one universal grammar that kind of people construct things on? We actually talked about this a little bit with John McWhorter the other day. And Mikhail's theory is analogous in that he says that there is a universal moral grammar. There is a code that all humans adhere to, certain basic things that are not unfamiliar and things that are in religious texts that, like, thou shalt not kill or things like that, golden rule principles. Do you believe that type of
So there are two issues, right? One is whether, as a descriptive matter, we all abide by certain moral principles or certain moral rules, whether there's a shared morality. The issue that I'm talking about is a separate question. It's not whether we all accept the same morality deep down, but rather whether there is a true morality.
But I'm hung up on something else. Congress passes and the executive branch implements laws all the time that are dubiously inflected by morality. And so in what sense, if you are giving a descriptive account of the process of U.S. law, leave aside how judges interpret it, and when we're talking about, common law development or constitutional law development, but you started with the example of Congress is going to pass the stimulus package and President Biden will sign it. And there may be many people who don't regard that as perfectly moral.
Yeah.
In what sense is it descriptively accurate to say that morality is a component of the legislative process?
Yeah. So what the basic idea would be that political morality accepts that human beings often make mistakes. They often screw things up, especially in a democracy. Many of us were anti-Trump, but we recognize that, in a democracy, you're still required to listen to this horrible person.
Heck with Trump. Fugitive Slave Act.
Oh, well, this is it. So this is no. Thank you for bringing that up. This is the hardest possible case. Ronnie Dworkin, in defending his view, wrote a very famous essay, which he then never reprinted because it's insane. He basically argued that the Fugitive Slave Act was unconstitutional, even though the Fugitive Slave Clause is in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution.
I know.
There's this little, I'm sorry, I'm sure it's of great comfort to all the fugitive slaves returned under the Fugitive Slave Act, upheld in Dred Scott, by the way, that Ron Dworkin 100+ years later would declare it unconstitutional.
Yeah, I look. I'm a positivist, so I can't. I find your intuitions very powerful, but
you're not just buttering up the host there, are you?
No, I'm an arch positivist. I actually think that that's the right view. I'm just saying, and I'm also saying that your view is something that people like Dworkin have found to be problematic about their own view and have forced them to make claims that I think are not slightly, but nuts. But I just want to say there are many people out there who accept this view, and they'll say, the Nazis did not have law. They called it law, but it wasn't law. And the same thing about slavery. Certain aspects of the antebellum legal regime did not impose legal obligations, even if people thought they did. Now, I'm really sympathetic with what you're saying, okay? It's just, this is the debate, okay? Now, the thing is, positivists have their own problems explaining certain things, and this is one of them. That Dworkin tried to say, okay, Ben, you're saying I have problems explaining certain things like the fugitive slave law. How do you explain the fact that judges look to morality to decide cases? So it must be that morality is in some sense like a part of law. And the inclusive legal positivist, of which who I am right now, says, yes, you know why morality is part of law? It's because the rule of recognition said it was part of law. Like, you just have to
I see what
understand.
you're saying.
Yeah, you just have to
It's
understand.
just because we said it was. It's all
Right,
a social
this-
construct.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
this not Guffman? Is this not urban, or is this like the perception of like, no, like you don't think so? Like, it's just kind of like an argument that it's all about perception. It's all about social construct. It's all like just
Well,
kind of.
it's that. It's like fiat money. Like, why?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, just because like we make money doesn't mean it's not real. It just means that what makes it real is that we all accept it. And it's the same thing about what makes morality part of law is the fact that judges and the community accept it as part of law. This is why it's called inclusive legal positivism, because the inclusive legal positivists think that anything can be part of law if it is accepted to be part of law.
Oh, interesting.
And morality is an example.
Yes, in our legal system. You can imagine a legal system in which that is not the case.
So now let's switch Scott Shapiro's. And now we have exclusive legal positivist Scott Shapiro calling bullshit on this.
Yeah, it's total bullshit. I don't know what that other guy said, but let me give you the response. Okay, the response is, this is an idea that was first put out by the great legal philosopher Joseph Raz, my teacher, and his view was, no, Dworkin, you have completely misinterpreted what is happening. What is happening is when judges look to morality to decide cases, they're looking outside of the law and bringing it in. Just like when you do your if you're following the tax code, you're looking to the rules.
I agree with this one. This is the one I agree with.
Right. The idea is that
I have to remind myself each time.
Right. Well, no, it's confusing, but here's the idea. The idea is like when you're figuring out what the tax code requires, you're following rules of grammar, you're following rules of arithmetic, you're following lots of different rules, but they're arithmetic and grammar are not part of the law. It's just that the law requires you to use those rules in interpreting them. So all you did, Dworkin, is discover that the law says sometimes you have to look outside the law to decide cases. Okay?
That's the one I agree with.
Right. This is called exclusive legal positivism.
Also, you can't write your way out of a paper bag, Ronald Dworkin.
And what is exclusive legal positivism excluding?
Morality. What exclusive legal positivism says, that morality may never be part of the law by itself. It becomes part of the law only when an institution has decided to apply it in a particular case.
So why do you hate morality, Scott?
I don't hate morality. I just
why are you so moral?
Well, I hate the troops. No, I don't hate.
Are you pro death panel?
I'm definitely anti-death penalty. So it's called exclusive legal positivism because it says that the rule of recognition may never validate morality. If morality can never be part of the law. It always has to be brought in on a case-by-case basis in particular decisions. So you can never say, oh, because this is morally required, this is what the law requires. That never works. You can say the Supreme Court has decided in this case, this is what is required. But you can never say before the decision that was part of the law.
And yet, I do tend to agree with your better half's sense that does not quite describe how judges behave, because that is a very good account of how we should think about cases as analysts, but it's not a very good instruction to a justice, right? You have in front of you the case of whether two same-sex people should be able to marry. You have a lot of law as traditionally understood that says no, and you have a very strong moral intuition that it's probably that you would feel better about yourself if the 14th Amendment were interpreted to include your moral intuition rather than to exclude it. And so you find a way to do that. That actually sounds more Dworkinian than Razist.
Razian, just to get the...
No, I'm going with Razist because it sounds a little bit like racist, but without actually making an insinuation. So it's subtly disparaging without...
So can I just say one thing? Just this is why this debate is such a philosophical debate. In both cases, whether you're an inclusive or an exclusively positivist, judges are doing the same thing. The question is how we describe it. In the inclusive case, we're describing it as judges applying morality because it's the law. In the exclusive case, we're saying judges are applying morality because the law tells them to apply something that's not law.
So this is actually a good vehicle to ask the question: what turns on this debate?
Nothing turns on it. That's why I said it's a philosophical.
Scott's and other Scott's belly buttons just like constantly around.
You have no idea how contentious this is. This is why I think it's
with yourself in the mirror.
No, it's like a couple of years ago in the IVR, which is the International Legal Philosophy Conference, there were 14 papers in the kind of positivism section. 11 out of the 14 were on inclusive versus exclusive legal positivism. It is like a big deal. But the reason why I think it's really interesting and important, okay, is that even though it doesn't make a difference, when you see why inclusive legal positivism is idiotic, you will learn something very fundamental about the law that does make a difference.
Which is what?
Okay, so this is the thing. Why do we have law? The view that I think, and this is a view I think HLA Hart thinks, and I think any right-thinking person thinks, is that we have law because we live together, and questions about how we ought to behave are complex and contentious. Okay, we disagree with each other all the time, and even if we didn't disagree with each other, it's really hard to know what the right thing is to do. Yeah. So what the law does is it tries to answer the question for us. What should we do? Okay, so it's like, how do we live together in a just way? Now, the law often gets the wrong answer, but that's what the law is trying to do. It's trying to tell us how we ought to live our lives in a community so that we don't end up killing each other and that we solve the problems that we ought to solve, like, getting vaccines to people, ensuring that kids aren't put in cages at the border. Lots of things that we need to figure out. The law's aim is to promulgate a set of standards that hopefully allows us to solve problems that if we just look to morality ourselves, we would end up with anarchy. Okay?
Yeah. No, so, it's an instrument. It's an instrument. It instrumentalizes.
Yeah, it instrumentalizes the idea of how do we live together. Okay. Now, this is why I think inclusive legal positivism is so stupid, because I
just want to note that exclusive legal positive, Scott, has taken a disproportionate amount of the time and has resorted to ad hominem against inclusive legal positivism, Scott, and that is reflected in the poll.
Getting you canceled.
It's reflected in the poll where exclusive legal positivism has gone from 35% before the debate to 84% after the debate. So I just want to point out that ad hominem attacks on your opponent work, and you should all use them.
Okay.
It's science.
It is. It's not just science. It's also the best legal education that money can buy. So
I really love that you like throw your hands up alone in your office at Yale and say headphones, and they magically appear running down the hall with an entire headset.
Yeah, this is my office here. Yeah, at the law
so
school.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually nice. It's a bit dirty, but here's the thing. This is why I think inclusive legal positivism is silly. Inclusive legal positivism says, well, if the rule of recognition says morality is part of law, then it's part of law. But the whole point of law is to answer the question, what is morality? So it's like going to somebody, asking them for advice, and them responding, do the right thing. Well, thank you. I knew that. That's why I was coming to you. You've added nothing. The inclusive legal positivist is only repeating the very problem that law was meant to solve and packaging it as the solution. Mm-hmm. Whereas the exclusive legal positivist at least says, no, when we have to look to morality, we've run out of answers. We need to go and look to morality and do our best because the law has run out and we're kind of at sea and we're kind of trying to do the best that we can, understanding that like we're stuck. So now once they made the decision, now that becomes law because now that becomes a basis for making decisions going forward. But before the decision, there was no basis. We were still in the soup. So that is why I think, so this is what I really love about the debate. It sounds like a silly debate. Well, is morality part of law or not part of law? But like when
it's not a silly debate. Yeah, it's kind of like
when you try to answer it, you kind of come, I hope, well, at least this is my answer. You kind of learn some very fundamental like principle about how law operates and why we have it. And I think that this has really strong implications for how judges ought to interpret the law, not just how we describe how they behave.
All right.
I'm sorry.
So we've got to wrap up, but I want to point out that if you have answered true to the last question on the poll, and for those of you who have not yet answered the poll, you should do so before I finish this sentence, because once I finish this sentence, it's going to bias the way you answer this poll. If you have answered true to this question, if you've answered false, under no circumstances should you check out Scott's podcast Jurisprudence, because it's sort of like 15 hours so far of this discussion.
It's so good,
with
it's
music.
Excellent, though.
With
music.
But
and it's really funny. It's hilarious. It's so good.
But if you have answered yes, and your reaction to this conversation is, boy, I kind of envy Janine, who's gotten a chance to hang out for a bunch of years at Yale Law School, although never managed to take one of Scott's classes. She fucked up, but I'm not going to. Then you should check out Jurisprudence, because it's actually a very good introduction to the subject of all of these debates, focused relentlessly on the question, what is law and why do we give a shit? Not what is the law, but what is law? You know, that definite article there is playing a big role. So, one last question, and then we will let both of you go. Which of you would be suspended from cancel for posting your views?
I would hope that both of us.
Do you agree with that? Which other, Scott?
I can't follow the discussion. I'm
too dumb. You're too dumb. Not enough
but-
brain cells.
Yeah, I would just say I like cancel because it's inclusive. But other than that, I don't know what blockchain is. I don't know what AI is. I don't know any of those things.
I just want to say that I think inclusive legal positivism did well in the initial poll because it had the word inclusive.
I was
And
just
I think
gonna say
people
that.
like the idea of being inclusive. And so they.
You guys need a rebranding.
Well, here's what's really interesting is that originally it was called soft positivism, and exclusive legal positivism was called hard positivism. And the soft positivists were really pissed because nobody wanted to be known as soft, so they switched to inclusive because it sounded
Are
better.
there a lot of men in this?
They're only men.
Positive.
I mean, they're only men. I mean, we're. I would say that's obviously not true. There are great female legal
No,
philosophers.
I know, but it
we
is
have
like
a problem
in like philosophy in legal
yeah,
philosophy.
we like many areas of life. Legal philosophy has a diversity problem, and I take it actually very serious. All joking aside, I take it very seriously, and you know, I think legal philosophy is really interesting, and you know, the more diverse, the better the field will be.
Yeah, totally.
We're going to leave it there.
Oh, man,
Scott
that was
Shapiro, you're both great Americans, though one of you is clearly smarter than the other.
I think the other one is secretly a Canadian. I had a feeling Andy just was like lurking. He was just here for it was just like, no.
Andy, you're a great Canadian. And I want to
He's
say,
like tearing me up he is so funny on Twitter. I'm like dying. So
cancel is the future of social media, along with I don't ever want to hear that person's voice.com, which I think a merger is clearly in order.
How about shutup.com?
Yeah. We will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big debate on Pugilism Week. We've got Pete Strzok defending the honor of the FBI against John Cipher and Alex Finley, two CIA officers, one of whom is super funny, and the other of whom is a CIA officer whose name is actually Cipher. It's like you can't make this shit up.
I think I was so upset when we never commented on that when he was here last time.
No, it's the best.
That is bonkers, right? And like, anyways.
So they are going to duke it out over FBI versus CIA. And we've all agreed in advance that we're not going to talk about the cafeteria because CIA has a better cafeteria than FBI.
Man, I'm gonna feel like probably like everyone who's like in general kind of like in your kind of NatSec world right now, Ben. I'm gonna feel about the conversation tomorrow like probably they felt about the conversation today. Like I was right there with Scott for every twist and turn.
No. This is going to be it's going to be like the conversation today. It's going to be super illuminating about actually what different agencies do, and we're going to use the knockdown, beat 'em up trash talk as a way into the inclusive legal positivism and the exclusive legal positivism. All that will be 22 hours and 54 minutes from now. And until then, Kate?
We don't have fun anymore. But in lieu of fun, we have Scott Shapiro, and as a backup, Scott Shapiro, and as a backup, Andrew.
Oh, there were 3 Scott Shapiros.
And another, the narrator. I think he goes behind Andrew.
So everybody go tweet cancel. Because
oh my gosh, it's please go retweet my tweet. I think it was pretty good.
Many people who have not learned of cancel, and you got to bring the light to them.
I just hope I don't get canceled for this.
I'm confident that you will, and that that's just fine. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.